let's look ahead to some of the betting angles before Tuesday night. Bucks lead in this series, 3-2, by the way, 3 straight wins in this series. And it heads back to Milwaukee. Bucks will have a chance to kind of win it all on their home court. Suns will be big underdogs for this one, plus 170 on the money line. So let's get your initial take on this game 6, Kenny. Would you back Phoenix at this number, or is this series over? What do you think?
Yeah, I've drank a lot of juice in this NBA Finals, and it's paid off for me for the most part. But I don't think that I want to take the Milwaukee Bucks at this number. I also don't want to take the Phoenix Suns on the money line. I think it's just going to be a pretty close game. I love taking the 5 points here that you're getting with Phoenix. You know, the Suns have played 2 really good games, really close games with the Milwaukee Bucks. They really should have won, early last week. And then they collapsed late, let the Bucks back into that game in Milwaukee. They steal that one. And then, of course, you get game 5 was just, Milwaukee just played really, really well. So the bottom line here is that the Phoenix Suns, I don't think are out of it quite yet. They shot the ball really, really well in game 5. And I think that they can shoot the ball again well on the road. They've shot better on the road than the Bucks have shot on the road. But in general, I like where this team maybe my doesn't.
Yeah,
this
wow.
Team is headed. Look, DeAndre Ayton has given them a lot. Devin Booker continues to score the ball well, and Chris Paul came back in game 5. Chris Paul played really well. So as long as you're going to get a good Chris Paul, I like the Phoenix Suns' chances here. The Suns are the Bucks have just shot really well, and there probably is a bad shooting netter on the corner, but they're at home. The stats would tell you they shoot well at home. I'm not sure that it's going to be that bad.
Nick, have you been drinking a lot of juice in this series as well?
I have probably just as much as Kenny, in fact. And I feel very similarly about this game. I don't have a lot of conviction one way or the other. I will throw out one stat, though, that I heard on a podcast this morning. The team that is leading 3-2 heading home for game 6 with a chance to close out the NBA Finals, all time, those teams are 10-1 in those game 6s. So history is on Milwaukee's side when you're the lower seeded team and you can close out the series in 6. With that said, this Milwaukee Bucks team that we've watched the entire postseason has been so inconsistent. And I try not to let, the last game or the last 2 games erase all that or color my opinion too strongly. Milwaukee shot the ball extremely well, really from everywhere in game 5, as did Phoenix. I think there's a chance that at least one of those teams, if not maybe both, regress. And we see kind of more of a grinded out game. I mean, there was a time, and I want to say, I think it was 13 possessions in a row. Each team scored 13 total possessions where it was just going back and forth. It was a lot of Devin Booker and Drew Holiday kind of trading baskets. I don't think we see that again. I think both teams kind of try to slow things down, as is often the case in a finals elimination game. Every possession becomes so important. And I think this ends up looking a lot like games 4 and games 5. Both of those were Milwaukee Bucks wins. I think that's now factored into this 5-point spread. But both of those games were extremely close throughout and really came down to the last 5 or 6 possessions. And the final scores were a little bit inflated, especially in game 4, just because some of the free throws at the end of those games. I mean, it was basically one possession deciding the game. And I think we get that again. These teams continue to be incredibly evenly matched. And Milwaukee, I think, especially has a little bit of room for regression with guys like Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton. Holiday played maybe the worst game of his playoff career in game 4, and then maybe the best game of his playoff career in game 5. He probably lands somewhere in the middle in game 6. Like Kenny said, Chris Paul looked a little better on Sunday night. We know what to expect from Booker. We know what to expect from Ayton. I think we get another really evenly matched game that probably finishes within, 3 or 4 points.
After the under hit in games 3 and 4, we had a high scoring affair in game 5 of this series. So that was 242 total points scored between these two teams. The game total for game 6 Tuesday night, that's set at 222 right now. You're leaning over or under, Nick?
I think I got to go under and bet on that regression. It's such a stark number compared to what that total was from game 5, like you mentioned. So, I think some people maybe look at that and say, you're giving me a 20-point cushion here. But I mean, the Milwaukee Bucks shot 58% from the field. The Phoenix Suns shot 55% from the field. I mean, both teams had some of their best shooting nights of the entire playoffs and the entire regular season. I mean, it was uncanny, the shot making, especially in those second and third quarters when, Phoenix jumped out to that big run and then Milwaukee came right back. Guys like Pat Connaughton shooting the lights out, which at some point he's going to come back down to earth. Like I said, I think in these type of elimination games, when one team has a chance, things slow down. Possessions become super important. The defense gets ramped up. Coaches are a little more willing to take timeouts, to set things up. I think this swings back the other direction and goes under tonight.
Over or under in game 6, Kenny?
Yeah, Nick's a smart man. This is going to go under. Look, game 5 was an outlier. When you look at the whole postseason for the Milwaukee Bucks, they've played incredible defense. We've said it on the show so many times. Their second worst defensive rating in game 5 of 129.3. And conversely, it was their best offensive night since game 2 of their opening round series against the Miami Heat with a 135 offensive rating. I mean, they don't play this well on offense. They don't shoot that well, especially on the road. And they don't play defense like that. They have a really good defense. And when you look at the pace in this series, 94.5, 97, 97, 91.5. If you want to contextualize that, the Bucks consistently this year were the top 3 in pace over, I believe it was 103. So I think that the Milwaukee Bucks here are going to come crashing back down to earth on the offensive end. They'll probably play better defense as well, especially given the stakes of this game. And if the pace is going to be 91.5, that is an incredibly low pace, then we're definitely going to see an under here. There's no question about it. I think you're getting a very good price here because of a really high total in game 5, the public betting up the over, but this is the safe bet for sure, the under.
What's a Bucks prop you have your eye on, Kenny?
Yeah, I don't know why, but I was looking at Brook Lopez over 11.5 points. He had a really a bit of a snoozer in game 5, and he is the guy that plays well at home, shoots the ball well, gets a lot of shots for the Milwaukee Bucks, and I do think that they like to have him out there for his size against DeAndre Ayton. You look at game 5, played 30 minutes, and he took 6 shots. He scored 9 points. I do think that that's a guy that could have some sort of cathartic experience in game 6 as they try to close this out. So I will be looking at that, but, Drew Holiday over 19.5 points. You saw in game 5, he finally arrived in this series, and we know that this guy's incredibly talented. We know that he's a great scorer, and he had 27 points. His total still sitting at 19.5. We know that with consistency, this guy can bring it in the scoring department. So I actually really like taking his over in the points as well. And I know that Nick is going to say this, but you could always take his over 8.5 assists as well. I mean, he's been an assist machine in this finals, and you get plus 115.
Nick, do you agree with that? Were you going to say that?
Well, I was thinking about it. We don't have to go into too much depth now, but the floor is so high for Drew Holiday in terms of his passing. I was actually going to take the under, and I think it's 19.5 points for Drew Holiday. I think he kind of comes crashing back down to earth as a shooter. I mean, some of the shots that he was making were just shots that he hasn't hit really the entire postseason. He had those 2 great games at the end of the Hawks series, but I kind of have to throw those out when you kind of look at his game log and try to project, because Giannis wasn't active for those games and he kind of had to do more. He hasn't been afraid to shoot even with Giannis back in the lineup. I mean, he's routinely getting to 20 field goal attempts, which unless he's playing like he was on Saturday night, I'm not sure that's necessarily what you want. So I'm with Kenny. If you want to look towards the Bucks prop, I think Drew Holiday over 8.5 assists is pretty interesting. If you want to combine these 2 teams, you can also get Giannis and Devin Booker to each score at least 35 points in this game. That's at plus 475 on the DraftKings Sportsbook. Not maybe quite as much value as I would like to get out of that, but Booker already has back-to-back 40-point games. We know he's going to go down swinging. And Giannis obviously is very much capable of getting to that 35 number. He would have gotten there on Saturday had he not clanked those 4 free throws at the end of the game.
All right, guys, really quick. Last one here. Nick, Suns side. How about a prop that you're looking at right now?
Well, I mentioned, combining Devin Booker and Giannis Antetokounmpo, if you want to count that. I think looking at the rebounding side, DeAndre Ayton has been a complete monster in this series. I continue to be just unbelievably impressed with the amount of rebounding that he's doing in traffic. I like him over 12.5 rebounds in game 6.
Kenny?
I like Mikal Bridges over 1.5 threes. The worst player on the floor for the Suns, according to plus minus, was Cam Johnson. At minus 19, it's no coincidence. As soon as they went away from Mikal Bridges, the team started to struggle. I think that they get back to Mikal Bridges here. Played 33 minutes in game 5, probably equal, if not more minutes. And he is going to shoot the basketball. He's a good 3-point shooter. I like Mikal Bridges to hit more than 1 3.